Welcome to the Everyman Tales. I'm so glad that you joined me today. I am Everyman, and I'm going to be your storyteller. And these stories are intended for bedtime, road trips, adventures, family time, and every time in between. They're intended for any age and every mind. Get ready to engage your imagination. Get ready for the Everyman Tales. The Cape was always beautiful. Positioned along the coast, there were mountains that dropped dramatically into the ocean. Beautiful dark and light blue waves would crash against the beach below, and it was Ellie's favorite place to go, to think, and to dream. Today she was led to the Cape out of a yearning of some sort. She wasn't quite sure what, but there was a stirring in her heart. So she was led to the bench at the edge of the Cape that overlooked the ocean. She'd seen pods of whales, individual fish, lots of birds, even bald eagles. At times it was so foggy she could barely see her hand in front of her face, and so windy it would blow the contacts right out of her eyeballs. But today, it was a good day. It was beautiful. The sun was positioned just right in the sky. And she went to her bench and she sat. The view, of course, was spectacular. As far up and down the coast as she could see, the sides of the hills were blanketed with beautiful evergreens, fir, spruce, pine, cedar. It was just magnificent. And the trail that led out to the bench, of course, was lined with a hedge that always seemed just barely wide enough for her to squeeze through. There was the occasional hiker or tourist, but for the most part, Ellie would sit on her bench alone, think, pray, and dream. The stirring in her heart continued to grow as a unique wind began to blow up the Cape and over the side of the mountain. She hadn't felt a wind like this before. She decided she should probably head back for home, the trail being just a few miles from her house, and as she started back, she noticed something. One of the hedges, it appears, had turned outward. She hadn't noticed it when she walked out to the bench, but the stirring in her heart seemed to amplify as she moved closer. She stepped up to where there was an opening in the hedge, almost like it had been pushed outward toward the forest from both sides, a slow curve leading into the woods. She'd been to the bench many times over the years and had never seen this. So she cautiously stepped through the hedge. She walked several feet into the woods, and then she saw it. It was a tree that caught her eye and she had never seen before. She couldn't quite put her finger on what kind of tree it was. The limbs came straight out from the trunks, and they were all beautiful, magnificently, almost like they were manicured in their synchronicity with each other. She got closer, and she noticed something about where the tree limbs would meet the trunk. Almost every tree she'd ever climbed would coat her hands with pitch, so sticky and gooey she could almost never get it off. But this tree, as she got closer to it, she noticed, close to the trunk, was worn almost bare, like it had been climbed dozens, maybe even hundreds of times before. Every limb close to the trunk was soft and smooth in appearance. She was still too far away to get a good look at it, but she definitely wanted to find out what was going on with this tree off the trail. As she got close, the stirring in her heart combined with the electricity in the air, and she got a sense that something was happening. She didn't go too close to the tree. She was apprehensive. The wind that was blowing was almost as if it was pulling her in a current. It was a thick wind, not the kind of wind that you feel when it blows on your face or tussles your hair. It was more of a pulling sensation and seemed to be blowing her towards the tree. She stopped. She looked all the way up the tree as far as she could see, and because of the symmetry of the limbs, she couldn't quite see the top. But she thought, I wonder if I should climb it. She got close. She started to come in between the limbs, and it's almost as if they parted for her to come close to the trunk. And as she got closer, the electricity in the air grew. And then she touched the limb. Immediately, something happened in her mind. She wasn't quite sure what it was, but she started to see excitement. She started to see hope. She immediately let go of the limb, stepped back, and wondered, what is happening? She felt fear. It was the first time she felt fear like this in a long time, an experience that she wasn't quite sure was right or wrong. She sat down at the base of the tree, looked around, and it was almost as if a blanket of needles had been laid out for her to just sit there and look at the tree. She thought, she prayed, and she dreamed. She wasn't quite ready to act on the stirring in her soul and the electricity in the wind, but she knew she would come back. She stood up, brushed off the needles, walked back out to the trail, and made a mark of where it was, the tree off the trail. Ellie would come back. Little did she know that this was the beginning of a journey that would take her further than she ever thought she would go in this world. This is the first episode of The Tree Off the Trail. Tune in next time for more stories about Ellie, the tree, and all the people that will interact with it. You've been listening to the Everyman Tales. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, engage your imagination.